Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing well. I'm filming this quite early and this is why there's like no natural light coming through my window, even though the sun has risen, but it is a really gloomy, wet, horrible kind of day, so I've had to turn all the lights, including my lamp, on in order for you to see me right now. So, I was planning to be back last weekend with this review, but unfortunately I came down with a horrible cold bug. So the last time you saw me was the Sunday, and I was saying how my dad was in hospital and such, and he should be out within the next few days. He got released the next day, so it was the afternoon. And I saw him get home and such, and it was so good to see him. And I think my body was like, okay, you can relax now. And literally the next morning I woke up and I was full of cold. And I was like, oh, for God's sake. And it had been so long since I had a cold that it just kind of knocked me for six. And it was this annoying thing where every day it was like somewhere different. So the Tuesday, it was all in my head. I had a terrible migraine all day. Then woke up on the Wednesday, it was all in my nose. Woke up the Thursday, it was all in my throat, and it was like, oh, for God's sake, just go away. And it did mean that I missed the opening weekend of Wicked, so it was just like, oh, this is horrible timing. But it's gone now. I saw Wicked yesterday, I absolutely loved it, so I am back on track. And yeah, my dad's doing really well. Everything, his recovery is going well, but it's because of what it was. It's like 3 to 6 months recovery, so it's a very slow and steady. But he's eating well, he's sleeping better and such. He's had his because it was staples he had rather than stitches. He's had his staples removed and such, and it's just every day just building up his stamina and such. So yeah, it's going great, and I will finally get to see him today because I haven't seen him for 2 weeks. So because of me being sick and everything, and this week I've been on a course at work where I have now qualified as a mental health first aider, so which I'm very excited about. I'm very happy that I did that. So yeah, I've been a busy bee for 2 weeks. But anyway, enough about my life. Let's talk about the book I have been reading over the past 2 weeks, which is The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. Now, just so you know my backstory of contact with this book, when it came out, people were going absolutely crazy about this book. And so because of that, I purposely didn't buy it. I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna keep an arm's length because I want to, well, two things. Firstly, I don't want to jump on the bandwagon for the sake of jumping on the bandwagon. And two, I want to approach stories and such when I am prepared for them. As in, I know it's my time to read this. So some books, because I love the story so much and like their continuation, or whatever, like the Cormoran Strike books, I will buy as soon as they come out because hell yes, I'm there for that. But if there's some like massive book that's out there at the moment that I should be reading, I'm not going to be reading that. No, I want to read what I want to read, and if I do end up reading that, I will read it when I get down the road where it's kind of like, now is the time for me to read it, rather than just reading it because everyone else is. And my contact with the Tattooist of Auschwitz as well was impacted this year because of the drama. So I saw the trailer for the drama and I was like, oh God, this is gonna be a tough drama to watch. And Sarah, my bestie, hey Sarah, she had watched, I think it was like the first couple of episodes, and she sent a message to me and my sister saying, this is tough to watch, but it's worth watching. And she had read the book. She had done the book first, and I did the drama first. So there is that to, be aware. And I watched the drama. I waited until all the episodes were available for me to download through Sky, because I've got Sky. I've got the ability to just download the series that they've got deals with to show, rather than watching it week by week. And I sat and watched it, and I had to watch it over, I think, 3 days. It was 3 or 4 days, because it was so hard to watch, or at least for me, it was so hard to watch. I was just an emotional wreck every time I watched an episode. I had to have a day to break between them, because it was just too much. It was too much. So yeah, it took 3 or 4 days for me to get through the whole of the series. But I loved it. I thought it was a great series. I went through the ringer watching it. It was so well put together, so well acted. I loved it. And then that's what triggered me to get the book. And I just hadn't gotten round to it until I was like, oh, I need to pick a couple of books to finish off the year. And The Tattooist of Auschwitz was one. I literally just like closed my eyes and pointed and landed on this. So I was like, okay, it's my time. It's my time to read this book. So that's the whole backstory and my contact with this book. Well, this story, should I say. So yeah, I went into the drama. I had absolutely no idea really anything about it other than what was in the trailer. And obviously that same narrative as you see in the trailer is what went around everywhere when the book was released and such. So I basically knew when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh yes, it's about that guy, you know, who was a tattooist in Auschwitz and his story. But I couldn't tell you details. I couldn't tell you character. No one, nothing. Now, Heather Morris is the author of this book, and she met a man called Lale Sokolov, and he told her his story. She then wrote a historical fiction book of that called The Tattooist of Auschwitz. So I just want to make it very clear that even though this is in a way, you know, biographical, because she's telling Lale's story, at the same time it is historical fiction, where the lines blur between the historical accuracy, what Lale told Heather in regards to that he may have, like, sometimes with trauma that we're not able to go there. So he may have told her something that she then wrote about, but that might not have been the full truth because he wasn't able to go there in his mind, or quite possibly he just didn't want to burden Heather with that truth. So that's what I mean with the accuracy. It's not necessarily Heather decided, no, I'm not going to write that, I'm going to write it this way. That wasn't necessarily her decision. It could have been Lale's decision with the way that he told her. So there we go. So yeah, the line between historical accuracy and the fiction, I'm not entirely certain of. There were some things that very clearly I was like, okay, that's not right historically, because we know the separations that happened in camps that in this book weren't necessarily happening and such, or certain interactions. I was like, that wouldn't have been allowed, would it? So, you know, those little things, but case by case, page by page, chapter by chapter, I could not tell you distinctly, I am no expert in any way to say this is the difference between the reality and the fiction. So I went into this having seen the drama. I knew basically Lale's story. I knew what was coming. And Lale was 24 years old in 1942 when his family were given notice to say that one member of each family were to be going into a camp, and if one person didn't go, then the whole family would be taken away. And Lale basically volunteered to go, and he ended up in Auschwitz. I can't say it. Auschwitz. For some reason, my brain this morning is not wanting to process words. I think it's because it's early. I need to have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or something just to wake me up. So sorry, I got that wrong just then. So he arrives at the camp and he's given the job of a tattooist. So he tattoos the numbers on people's arms. And obviously this doesn't just mean Jewish people. He is Jewish. It's not just Jewish people. It's other people who were placed in these camps for various different reasons, who he comes into contact with as well. And when one day he is doing his job and he looks up at the woman who sat in front of him, and he falls in love at first sight. And it's about him, the things that he has to do in order to survive, and also find the woman who he tattooed. And it's this epic story. It's heartbreaking, it's thrilling, it's devastating, it's beautiful. It's wonderful that it's linked to such darkness. There's a lot going on in this story. So this was my first Heather Morris book, and I feel when I finished it yesterday, and I've spent the rest of the night, and obviously so far this morning, reflecting on it, and I still feel the same way, in that as confronting and brutal and honest and stunning a read this is, at the same time I felt rather detached. And I don't know if it's just because of the way that Heather wrote it that just doesn't work quite well with me, or because of the way that the drama approached it, that I connect more with the drama's structure than the original book structure. So it's one of these things where I feel like the drama is the drama, the book is the book. Yes, obviously they are connected, they are completely linked, but for me, I think I respond more to the structure of the drama than I do to the book. An example, Heather uses, I'm so sorry, just so FYI, I've closed my kitchen door, but my washing machine is on, and I've just heard it's going into a high spin, and it's being quite loud. So you probably won't be able to hear it, but I can hear it. So if I start speaking loudly, it's because I'm thinking that you can't hear me over that. So sorry about that. Anyway, back to it. Example. So Heather a lot uses the terms Lale said, Lale did, Lale walked, Lale saw, Lale this, and it's like there's so many other ways that you could have phrased that. It almost felt like I was just watching this man walk around doing his day-to-day stuff. Now, to clarify, the routine of what he has to do is part of his story. It's an important element of the story. I'm not putting that down. What I'm saying is that Heather could have just written it in a different way, because every time Lale walked, Lale said, Lale did this, Lale did that, Lale tattooed, Lale did. It just felt like you could have just written it in a different way. It just irked me each time, and the more and more she did it, the more and more detached I felt from Lale and such. So I just felt rather conflicted with this. The dialogue I liked. I liked the fact that when she shows things such as brutality that Lale comes across, that she is quite blunt and to the point, but she doesn't go into detail. She holds back. Because there is that thing of, especially in a horrific event like the Holocaust, that you need to convey what is happening, be truthful because this is what happened, but at the same time you need to make sure you're not crossing a line of this is too much, this is too uncomfortable for the reader, because you want them to continue to read the book. Or like the drama, you want them to continue to watch the drama. So there is a fine line that books or any kind of art form, whether that be film or TV drama or books or music or actual paintings, sculptures, etc., crosses a line of conveying the truth and being aware of the people who you are presenting this to. It's a hard line. It's a very, very hard thing, and I think for what she did very, very well. I hope I'm conveying this right. It's a really tough one to kind of explain, where I totally respect what she did. I totally respect the choices that she made in her writing, but at the same time, it is. At the same time, I feel like if you're writing a fiction book, that the language that you use needs to be appropriate for what you're writing, you know, for the genre that you're writing. I'm not saying that it needs to be so evocative and it needs to be so detailed and it has to be great prose and poetic writing and such. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that the more and more the very basic kind of language was used, the more and more I felt detached from it. And yeah, but that's just for me. That is just for me. But I totally recognise that what Helen did was strong. It just wasn't quite strong enough for me. Now, also, I was really surprised, actually, that I was able to get through it really, really quickly. But I think it probably was because that I knew the story. I knew what was going to happen. There wasn't anything like shocking around the corner for me. Whereas when I watched the drama, it was constantly like that. I was constantly like, oh my God, on edge, and like, what the heck is going to happen? And stuff that happened that completely blindsided me. And I think because I saw the drama first, that then meant that when I read the book, I didn't have that same feeling that people had when they first read the book. So in a way, watching the drama first was a real negative for me for reading the book. Also, yeah, it's only 256 pages, and then you've got this massive postscript. We've got photos, we've got documents, we've got information about Heather Morris, information, further details, historic details about Lale in the camp and such. There's discussion groups. There's the first chapter of the next book, Heather's next book. There's quite a bit here. So it's only 256 pages, this book, and so I got through it really quite quickly. And the pacing is also very interesting. I was expecting the pacing to be like the drama. The drama is about, I think it's 8 episodes long. So you've got quite a length of time that it covers. And I was just getting through this and I was like, oh my God, are we there already? Just, that's really fast. I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, so again, I feel like the pacing of the drama worked better in favor for me than the book. I really want to emphasize for me, because that's is the only experience that I have obviously relating to it. But again, I think it's that thing that because the drama gave you time to explore the character more, it allowed you to see and understand the threats more. And threats can be on multiple different levels. I'm not just talking about the threat of being killed, other threats that exist in camp as well. And what the drama also does beautifully is fill in some gaps. And by that, I mean, there are various conversations that do happen throughout this book, but there are full sections where we have no dialogue. And so they have filled that space, that gap, beautifully with wonderful dialogue. Like, I love all this stuff at the very beginning of the drama, where we learn about Lale's home life, his family, his decision to go and such. Whereas in the book, we meet him on the train on the way to the camp. And then occasionally we get like he has a dream or he just suddenly remembers a memory from home and we encounter that, but we don't get that dialogue. We don't get that connection to his family and such. And so getting those connections in the drama, I think, worked better for me. So, yeah, I felt a bit detached from it. I felt it went very quick. I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it the way that I wanted to. I loved the drama. I think the book's okay. But as I said, because I knew the drama, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew how I felt about certain things. I saw it in a different way. So maybe my emotions were detached as well. Like I said, knowing exactly what is coming around the corner, you are prepared for it. Whereas when I watched the drama, because I had no idea, I was an absolute wreck. So, yeah, seeing the drama first may have been a disadvantage for me for the experience of this book and this story. It is a very powerful story. It's a book that's well written, but not quite there for me. It's respectful, yet it tells the truth. Yes, there is a historical accuracy element there when I say it tells the truth. I do acknowledge that. But there's something I can't put my finger on that makes me go, yeah, it's good, but it's not great. There is something in my gut, in my feeling, and I don't know what it is, that just makes me go, It's hard to explain. It's hard, I know. And I don't want to put down a book that's telling someone's story of the horrors that they endured in their lifetime. It just felt a bit off. Maybe it's because of the lack of characterization. I love characterization. I love it so much. And maybe it's because the drama felt more personal to each individual that we meet. The drama does this amazing thing that is so beautiful and so interesting that it's what lingers. I mean, obviously a lot of it lingers, the horrors that you see, etc. But the thing that really gets me every time is that in the course of an episode, we have scenes, and then all of a sudden, we just get these close-up shots of people's faces, people who we've encountered, and sometimes it's just the one, sometimes it's multiple, sometimes they flag up multiple times in an episode. And what it's that these are people who have died in the course of that episode. And sometimes it's people who are just literally in the background of a scene. Sometimes it's people who Lale interacts with. And tragically, it's sometimes people who we spend quite a bit of time with in the drama and in the book and such. So having that, this is the last time you're ever going to see this face, acknowledge them. They're not just characters in a drama. These are real people, and yeah, we're now going to say goodbye to them. It's a beautiful way of conveying the loss and acknowledging the names of people whose story has been not known, quite possibly, to all the people who are watching the drama, but they're known now. So doing things like that, it made it more, the drama was more personal, more human, more powerful for me than the book. But the book in itself is a great book. It just didn't quite work for me. I hope I am conveying this well. I'm doing it the best I can. I don't, as I said, I don't want to be ultra critical of a story of such horror, but it just didn't work quite for me. So yeah, those are my thoughts on The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. An important story, a beautiful story, a really hard, almost like at times a really horrifying story. That but an interesting one to read. So let's ask my usual questions. Would I read this again? To be honest, I'm not sure I would. Or maybe I should put this back on my bookcase and maybe give it like a year or something and then see how I feel about it. I'm quite intrigued actually to hear the Richard Armitage audiobook of it. So maybe that's something for me to look into, because in like the next week I've got my new Audible credit will become available. So I could always get the use my Audible credit to get the audiobook and see how I feel about it. Would I recommend this to anyone? Well, if anyone has an interest in historical fiction, particularly to the Holocaust, then yeah, I'd say read it. But yeah, if somebody hasn't read Holocaust historical fiction before, I would flag obviously that there is stuff that happens that comes out of nowhere. I'm not going to say exactly what, because obviously spoilers. But yeah, there's a lot that happens in this, just as in the drama and such. So just to be aware of that. Would I read any more of Heather Morris's books? To be honest, I'm not that fussed. And it's not because of, I don't think I could read another one of her books because of the type of books that she writes. And she's written more Holocaust historical fiction books. I think it's because of the writing style. As I mentioned, it just, I want more, and I don't think she would deliver But I could be completely wrong. Maybe I should just say, look, I'll give her a go at some point, but it's not going to be for some time. So there we go. I would, however, strongly recommend the drama. I thought the drama was great. I'll include a trailer to it in the description below for you. So there we go. Those are my thoughts on the Tattooist of Auschwitz. A difficult book for me to read and critique. But yeah, it's an interesting one. But I'd love to know what you think. If you read this book, leave a comment in the comments box below. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, tag you later decide. And I'll be back with my thoughts on my next read, which is The Maid by Nita Prose. And tomorrow, I can't believe it, it's going to be the 2nd of December, which will be the first day of my advent calendar for 2024. So I will be back tomorrow with that. All right then, everyone. Bye.